One of the great tragedies of our time is the countless number of children who are orphans in the world today. Over 160 million orphans in the world who go to sleep each night without a clean diaper, who aren't held when they're crying, who often lack access to clean water, nutritious food, who aren't given the attachment bonds and the love and affection that every human being, every child deserves. The crisis is enormous. And the Torah has a lot to say about this. Throughout the scriptures, we learn that we are to show justice towards, show love for, show care towards the orphan, towards the YATOM. And each of us should feel called towards this. Isaiah himself, one of the greatest prophets in the tradition, says, Limdu hetev, dirshu mishpat ashru chamutz, shiftu yatom rivu almana. Learn to do good, to seek justice, to vindicate the victim, to render justice to the orphan, and to take up the grievance of the widow. So we see here and all over the Torah that we must prioritize the child who is parentless. And in fact, some of the greatest heroes in the Jewish tradition were themselves orphans or estranged from their families. Moses was raised in a foreign household, away from his parents. The great prophetess Esther was known to have been an orphan, later taken in by Mordechai. Abaye, the great Talmudic sage, was a foster child growing up. It is throughout our tradition not only the vulnerable were foster children or adopted or simply orphans, but also the extraordinary, the heroes. And so our tradition says we should not only step up to care for these children in our cities, in our states, in our country, around the world, because they are vulnerable and suffering, but also because they can be heroic if we invest in them. That some of the greatest people of our time have been heroic. Now, taking a foster child into one's home or adopting may not be for everyone. There are certainly demands, but each of us can find our own contribution to make, to create an impact, to give a sense of the sacrifice that could be possible. The great Skoliner Rebbe in Eastern Europe, after the Shoah, after the Holocaust, stayed in Eastern Europe defying the Soviets because he needed to help the countless number of orphans. And one night in his small home, he heard the cry of one of the orphan children on his floor, who was shivering without a blanket. And he, in a very complicated way, took the blanket off of his own son and put that blanket upon the orphan child. His own child understood. At the same time, he explained, he said, son, you can at least warm yourself knowing that you have the love of your family here. This boy does not have that love of a family, and so we must keep him warm this way as well. This is very complicated, but it demonstrates that when we bring another child into our home, it is a sacrifice to a certain extent. So it is not for everyone, but it is also a beautiful act that our tradition asks us to consider, to say how much more compassion and love and mercy can we put into our home. And in the end of days, we will see the messianic ideal is that every child has a home, every child has a family, every child is loved. May we all do our part.